Today, we are ranking all of the killers from worst to best. We are going to give our honest opinion on who we think is the worst killer in Dead by Daylight and who we think are the best killers in Dead by Daylight. I'm going to try my best to justify my opinion as well. We're going to have some fun. Kings and queens, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I'm pretty pumped up and excited for today's video because we're going to be going through every single killer and giving our honest opinions on them. Disclaimer, obviously this is an opinion, so you might not agree. I'm going to talk about your favorite killer, so take it with a grain of salt. You're free to agree or disagree with me, and I would love to hear what you guys think as well, but I'm going to rank every single killer on their maximum potential, playing them at the best of the best and taking into consideration only their add-ons. I'm not going to talk about the perks because I want to see how good the killers are just with their add-ons and their kit itself. Perks can obviously help every single killer in different and unique ways, but I want to see what the killer itself would be like. Keep in mind, you can get a 4K with any killer in the game. It doesn't mean that they're top tier. If you guys do enjoy, make sure you leave a like down below. Oh, and subscribe for some more DVD content like this. Also, a big shout out to our Twitch. We're live every single weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. With that being said, guys, I think it's time we jump on into this. So who is the weakest killer in the game? Now that, my friends, is going to the pig. The pig, in my opinion, is the worst killer in Dead by Daylight. There is nothing on her kit that really helps her. There's certain add-ons to make her a little bit better, but overall, she's just a mediocre killer, and with all of the nerfs that the devs constantly give to her, she's not good whatsoever. I hope in the future they really work on her because she is no fun to play as. Sure, you can get some boop snoops or some nice dashes here and there, but it doesn't take a lot for a survivor to realize how to counter the pig. If she goes to ambush somebody, you can literally run away. If you have a trap on your head, you can easily get it off, and besides that, that's literally what her power is. It's very black and white, very bland, and hopefully they look into it more in the future. Next on the list for me is the clown. The clown is the next weakest killer in my opinion in Dead by Daylight. He does have some cool bottles that can help him cut chases down, but besides that, he has little to no map pressure whatsoever. A survivor can easily pre-drop a pallet or go to a different location, avoid the gas completely to stop you, and with certain add-ons, yes, you can be a little bit better, but overall, there's nothing that really gives him that oomph that most of these other killers have. And if you're not running perks, or you said we weren't going to talk about them, but if you're not running something like Save the Best or Last and using a whole perk slot just for that, the clown is very, very weak. While his perks are nice to run, especially coming with the new update, I don't think the clown is really that good. You still can do phenomenal with the clown compared to the pig. I think the clown towers over the pig in my opinion, but still, the clown is one of the weakest killers in DBD. Taking the next spot on my list as one of the weaker killers in Dead by Daylight is our boy Myers. Myers, in my opinion, is also a very weak killer. I'm going to be placing him in the D tier, and for some simple reasons. Again, no map pressure whatsoever, nothing to help him blaze around the map to keep the generators from popping. On top of that, his power doesn't help him whatsoever in the chase. The reason why he's above the pig and the clown is because he has that one-shot capability that still can be a little bit of an equalizer, especially if survivors are a little bit too altruistic. The downside to that equalizer is that you actually have to literally stop chasing and stare at survivors in order to charge your power up. Especially in tier 1, you have to do it. If you don't and you decide to do Scratch Myers or something like that, sure, it's a fun gimmick, but if you're playing in a real game at high MMR, you're not gonna do good. It really stops you from doing good. Now again, there are some add-ons to make this a little bit better, and his 2 ultras are absolutely cracked out of the world, but base kit Myers, regular Myers, the normal add-ons that you're going to be running and seeing every day, he really is not that good in my opinion, just because you have to charge your power up essentially before you can get it using, and when you do use it, it's only for 60 seconds, and that's about it. Coming in next on our list, I'm sad to say, as I do main this guy, and that is the Trapper. Trapper is in the D tier as well. I put him above Myers because I feel like in certain situations, he actually has more gameplay value than Myers himself. Myers has his 60 seconds that he can do his thing, and then after that he has to charge. At least with Trapper, you can go around placing traps even if you're placing them bluntly and catching survivors off guard. Survivors have it embedded in their heads to run a specific way or run specific loops a certain way in order to counter the killer. You do this with literally every single killer with the exception of maybe Nurse and a few others here and there, but with Trapper, you kinda put a hole in their plan. With Dead Hard being changed as well, nobody can dead hard straight over your traps, so the only thing that you need to worry about is people disarming your traps, which in itself is a major issue, but when you have 10 of them lying around, especially towards a later game, you can get some good progress. You can catch survivors running away from certain strong loops, such as a killer shack, place a couple of them down, boom. If people are around a hook or in a basement, you can place traps around, catch them off guard, especially if they're over altruistic, and there you go. You get some value out of it, although, again, he has no map pressure. You can easily get around his power in most cases by just disarming his trap or physically walking around his trap, and then that's pretty much it for our boy Trapper. He has received a few nice changes and some add-on passes that did make him a little bit better, but overall, he isn't that good compared to all of the other killers, and he is our final killer that is actually in the D tier, which now takes us to the C tier. Who are we putting on this list? The first killer that comes to my mind is the Wraith. The Wraith is a great character, but not as good as some of these other ones. His add-ons are definitely better than everybody in the D tier, and you can make some really good and unique builds with him. You can also get some good map pressure because you do walk faster while you're cloaked, especially with certain add-ons, and you can have a map wide bell, you can have a no bell whatsoever, but nonetheless, you can sneak up on survivors, get some surprise attacks, and you know, it's not that bad. Especially if you combine some of the right add-ons, and with the new buff that's going to be making everything pretty much faster, Wraith is actually quite nice. Now I put him above Myers and Trapper because his add-ons actually help quite a lot in chases, and if playing him tactically and correct, you can get some good value out of it. You can do the hit and run strategy, you can gun people down, you can eat all the pallets with certain add-ons, and Wraith is actually viable with multiple different playstyles to do. Now of course, he doesn't have any one-shotting capability, he doesn't, you know, blaze across the map like the Blight or something like that, so he's not quite up there, but he's still a good killer nonetheless. Moving on forward, next is the Laffy Boy, the Doctor. Doctor's next on the list, and I think the Doctor is actually quite decent. I don't think he's anywhere near some of the better killers, but you still can get a bang for your buck with the Doctor. With his static blast, you can easily identify where survivors are at and even stop them if they're working on generators, or even stop them from using flashlights, etc. if they're in Tier 3 madness. Your illusions also help you figure out where survivors are at. More information is always key, and your shocking power, if connected, can stop survivors from getting some pretty massive loops. Now, besides that, again, there's no map pressure with the Doctor, and while his power is nice for stopping loops, if you use it a little bit too much or on a safe loop, chances are you're not going to get much value out of it. The best way to use it is if you're seeing something that's really unsafe, shock it, try to mind game, and then knock the survivor, or if you have high stimulus, they're running to a very far pallet or safe vault and you can manage to get the shock off, you could get a nice hit in them. The fake pallets and things like that are nice as well, as you can trick survivors, and obviously the constant red stain and the missing of the skill checks is quite nice as well to give you information, but that's as far as it goes. After that, again, he's just a standard killer, and if you are relying too much on your power to try to catch a survivor, it's going to bite you in the butt, and you're not going to be able to get them, as they'll just avoid your static really easily and carry on running, putting the Doctor in at the C tier. The next killer on the C tier list is Freddy. Freddy has fallen from where he used to be. He used to be one of the better characters to be showcased in Dead by Daylight, but in today's meta and in today's state, he falls very, very short. No pun intended. While Freddy does have everything that a good killer would need, he can map travel across the map and easily hit somebody down. He can use his puddles to stop you from chases or even to fake pallets. That's as far as it goes. He is easily loopable, and his power isn't necessarily that good. Running through the fake puddles is as easy as dodging the Dr. Static, and if you do decide to run through them, you still can prematurely drop a pallet or still get through a vault while continuing your chase. You can't really use your power mid-chase and just teleport around the map, just like some of the other killers, so it falls quite short. And there's a lot that they could do to make Freddy a little bit better, but he's just kind of bland, to put it quite frank. There's not much that goes on with Freddy, and while he used to have the highest kill rating in the game, he has now been butchered, and I don't think he is nowhere near his former glory. On paper, it sounds like he has a good kit and some add-ons could help him, but overall in practical games, he is not that good. Speaking of short, the next person that's on our list is Sadako. Sadako is actually not terrible like some of the other killers. She has a lot of good things that's in her base kit and things that she can do, but I think again she falls short in a lot of areas. While the teleporting to TVs is quite nice and the condemned could work in certain situations, it really doesn't give her all too much in her actual power. So if you're running from a Sadako, yes, she can sneak up on you when she's demanifested and try to get a hit, but after that you kind of pay attention. Sure, you can walk through the survivors at certain points if needed, but that's such a niche thing, it doesn't happen all too often that you need it unless it's towards the end game, towards body blocking survivors. And then at that point you're just a basic M1 killer running around eating pallets, doing what you do. Now you can teleport to these TVs, and it's something that the survivors do need to keep in mind, and the constant teleporting is quite nice. You can easily get some crazy good map pressure all the time to run around, catch survivors off guard if you play it correctly, and even build up the condemn meter, forcing them to get off the generators or healing whatever action they're doing and tending to removing the condemned. And if you can get it to work, you can actually get them out of the game, and that's where her power works quite well. The teleporting in TVs is really good too, because you get a little bit of a speed boost and you can actually catch survivors off guard with it. So overall, while she doesn't have a lot of good chase potential, she actually has fantastic map pressure, and that's what puts her above someone like Freddy, who does have that same map pressure, but it's not to the same point as Sadako. She probably has one of the best map pressures there is. And if you take a look at their tier list, everyone that followed prior had no map pressure whatsoever. So Sadako goes in a very comfortable C position. You still can play very well with her and, you know, get things to go your way, but overall, she's just okay at best. The next killer on the list is the Deathslinger. Now, I know this one might be a little bit more controversial, but I don't really think the Deathslinger is all that good. I think the Deathslinger is pretty mediocre at best. Compared to other ranged killers, he just doesn't really stack up. So you can get some really good shots and stop survivors from going to a vault, going to a pallet, and if all your shots are on point, you can do pretty good. Keep in mind, he is a 110 killer, so he has that range to help him in certain situations, but again, that map pressure is not there. While his power only helps him in chases if a survivor drops a pallet early, or they manage to get a vault in time and run a little bit of distance away, it could be quite difficult to get the hit on them. At that point, there's not much else that the Deathslinger can do, and you kind of just either go into the borrow time effect or you lose a health state and continue to chase. You can also easily avoid his gun attack with the range because it's so finite, unlike Huntress's beach balls, for example. And even if you're the best Deathslinger in the world and you're hitting these crazy shots, you can have massively good chase potential, but still fall short because everyone's scattered around the map working on gens and there's realistically nothing you can do about it. Especially with the changes, since you can't just ADS and shoot a survivor very quickly, reel them in and continue to process, run something like Save the Best for Last to make it go even faster, it's become a lot more difficult. You're actually going to have to time your shots a little bit more well, and while this may be a skill thing and you can be the best at this, I still feel like even the best Deathslinger will run into those matches where there's not much that they can do while still playing a perfect game. Again, I know it might be a little bit more controversial, but that is where Deathslinger goes on our personal tier list. And finally, for the last killer on the C tier, that's going to go to our friend the Ghostface. I would love to put the Ghostface higher on the tier list, but I can't put him any higher than the C tier because realistically, they're very mediocre. While they're a better buffed up Michael Myers and you can get some crazy good exposed hits on people, realistically, again, you have to charge your power up, so that's time away from chasing the survivors, and you could sneak up on them, but once they realize it's you, they're going to be paying attention. On top of that, survivors can easily kick you out your power, and while it is a lot nicer now that they can't kick you out while injured, one missed hit, or if you manage to get them down and your power is pretty much drained. There are some nice add-ons to help you with this and to help with stalking survivors a little bit more faster while leaning, etc., and keeping the obliviousness going, but that's pretty much it. At that point, if someone takes a hit or if the survivor is healthy and you don't fully stalk on them and they kick you out your power and you go to hit them, then they lose all of the progress. Not to mention that there's so many times when his power is finicky and either you get kicked out or you don't. Sometimes someone's behind a wall and they kick you out. And yes, I know there's a better way to, you know, kick Ghostface out of his power, etc., but it's so finicky during the games that it just feels awkward. The only good thing that Ghostface has going for him is exposing people when need be. You can keep people at 99% exposed if they're going for an unsafe or if they're in a very awkward position with no pallets or a dead zone. You can easily knock them down, rinse and repeat the cycle, and keep it going. Using the corners to your advantage to sneak up on survivors and even crouching when needed at certain loops to continue to stalk or even try to mind game survivors. So there are some good things in his kit that will help him. But then again, just like most of the killers so far, there is nothing to do with the map pressure. If Ghostface had a little bit more map pressure, like imagine if Ghostface could teleport through TVs like Sadako, it would be one of the best killers in the game. But sadly, he can't do that, and that is why he is at the C tier on our tier list. And that, my friends, is the final killer of the C tier on our list. So let's head on up to the B tier. The first killer that is going to join the B tier is the Trickster. Now, Trickster is a interesting killer. A lot of killers like playing against a Trickster because it's fun tossing a million knives at someone, and survivors absolutely hate going against a Trickster. It's just not fun to them whatsoever, and I kind of agree. But let's not take away that from Trickster. Trickster is still a pretty good killer when it comes down to the fundamentals. They have a fantastic one-on-one chase. It's so difficult to avoid Trickster, especially if you're trying to loop. You can easily just hit you over pallets, over vaults. If you're trying to turn corners, you can still get hit through cracks in the wall, and you have a bunch of blades to do this, keeping people condemned and then, or not condemned, at their laceration meter, then hitting them with one extra blade, getting them down, especially with some of the add-ons, is super duper nice. On top of that, if multiple people are in an area and you have your main event going, you can easily get multiple people down very quickly. Now, the downside to Trickster is he is a 110 killer, and if you're out of blades or something like that, it's going to lead to your downfall. Trying to loop somebody at 110 is just not the way of doing it, and then in that case, you will get beat most of the times. On top of that, you might have to leave mid-chases if you're out of blades, and this can be a big hindrance if someone is at 99% lacerated, and then you come back and you have to chuck a couple more blades, extending that chase longer than it needed to be. Not to mention, Trickster has, again, I sound like a broken record, no map pressure whatsoever. While you can chuck a bunch of blades halfway across the map and be super accurate at it, the actuality of that happening in a normal match is slim to none, so it doesn't really help. But nonetheless, in the one-on-one chases and how quickly you can exit a chase with Trickster, getting the victory and hooking a survivor, it's super high up there, and that's why Trickster is in the B tier. Unlike some of the other killers that you need to wait around, break pallets, continue the chase, Trickster can literally stop that in an instant, and that's why survivors have a very hard time dealing with it, because there isn't too much that you could do if a Trickster's right on top of you with a bunch of blades. Moving up next on our list, we have the Cenobite. So Cenobite's actually a pretty decent killer. I don't mind them whatsoever. I think they're comfortably in the B tier. They have, again, what every killer needs. If someone decides to go for their configuration, you can teleport towards them and you easily know where one survivor is. You have to be able to get them or knock them down, and you will succeed at doing what the power is meant to do. On top of that, you have chains that can help you during your chase, and it's also a range thing to stop survivors from getting an unhook or stop them from working on a generator, pull them off of the generator, etc. If they refuse to get your box, you get more power, and if you find your box yourself, you get more power as well, giving you information on where all the survivors are at and where you need to go. So he makes up for not having the best of the best map pressure. He still has some with teleporting to his box by having long reach chains, and this helps significantly in your chases, cutting the loops very short if you're accurate with them. On top of that, if survivors refuse to go to your box, they'll be punished with constant barrages of more and more chains attacking them, forcing them not to work on generators, and this can snowball into something that's really crazy with everyone looking for the box, etc. There's also some fantastic add-ons that you can run for them that makes their power so much better, and that's why I think that they deserve a spot on the B tier. There is still some healthy counterplay that you can do to them, and you can easily dodge some of these incoming attacks, and if you're there using it at certain vaults, etc., or pallets, you can again vault early, drop the pallet early, and there's not too much that they can do, but nonetheless it still works out quite well, and I think there's a healthy pull and push for these Cenobites. It's time to carry on. Now we're getting into the juicy stuff. What killers are coming on next? Next on our list is the Legion. Now, I absolutely love Legion in the new patch, and I think they are really, really good. We're putting them in the middle of B tier, and with certain add-ons, I would definitely put them in A or even S tier, notably Mural Sketch and Never Sleeping Pillows. You can constantly stab people over and over and over, and they have to constantly mend, not working on generators, and then they would have to either choose to heal, which is wasting their time, or stay injured, and you can easily just knock them down. Maybe I wouldn't put them as high as S tier. I take it back. Maybe I'll put them in A, but still good nonetheless. There's certain add-ons that just make the Legion feel so much better, and now that you can knock people down with your final stab and Feral Frenzy, you can get some good map pressure going. You get a ton of information, you stop survivors from working on gens and then having to mend, and if they choose to heal, it's punishing them even more. Very boring on the survivor side sometimes, but for the Legion mains, it's not too bad. Legion after the patch has just been so much better and way more awesome to play, and they feel much nicer in the right hands. Again, there is some counterplay that you could do as well, choosing not to heal, dropping pallets after being, hit by the Legion. I think Otz even has a full-on video on how you can counter the Legions, which is amazing because people need to learn how to go against them in order to realize what their weaknesses really are, and we'll talk about it. If people aren't grouped up together, your power can't do much, If people are running away from each other, you can't get that extra stab, and you still have to M1 down them. You don't really have the access to just, hit them again unless you're in your 5th Feral Frenzy stab. You have to gun them down being the 115 killer you are. So again, you are a standard killer at that point. You can choose to go after another survivor, etc., and having them all injured definitely helps, and that's why Legion is in the B tier. I think they're pretty well balanced. There's counterplay to them, can be annoying at times, but overall, Legion not too bad. Carrying on over, we got Nemesis. Nemesis is a pretty cool killer, and I think Nemesis is, again, one of those balanced killers that is not only fun to play as, but fun to play against. He's actually out of my screen. He's so goddamn tall. Nemesis is pretty good for a couple of reasons. First of all, he doesn't have map pressure, but he does have the zombies that kind of patrol. And while they don't always help, they can help in certain situations. You can easily get the zombies to force people off of generators or get survivors to waste their flashlight use, etc. And even in certain situations, get the zombies to actually hit them in certain chases or even camp around the hook for you, which could be quite nice. Besides that, Nemesis is a regular 115 killer, walks around, does his thing, but he has his tentacle that helps him with his chases. You can easily power up your tentacle throughout the match, breaking pallets faster and catching survivors at a range if they're deciding to go for a pallet or a vault, kind of making them forcefully making a decision if they should drop a pallet or go for a vault, knowing that the tentacle is coming. If you're playing your cards right, similar to Huntress, you can easily figure out what they're going to do and get some hits. You can even zone survivors into certain areas, which is really, really nice. On top of that, the zombies, like I said, if you're already infected, could get a little numb on you and you could end up going down, which is a little bit beneficial in certain situations. Once Nemesis's tentacle is at tier 3, there's some good add-ons as well that you can run to help speed this process up. Then you really show what your power can do. You have a super duper long range to catch survivors if they're going for pallets or vaults, and on top of that, if they are just infected, they have to waste their time going for a vaccine, and there's only 4 around the map. Most people don't end up doing that, and that's where you can easily just continuously hit them over and over and over, making Nemesis in the B tier. I think he's pretty well balanced. There's counterplay that you can do to him. Nemesis is in a nice spot, which takes us to our next killer, and that is going to be Bubba. We do like Bubba. Sadly, Bubba does not get his day. He is not better than the Hillbilly, in my opinion, still, although he is way, way nicer. Bubba is absolutely fantastic and has some of the best pressure for grouped up survivors, considering he can easily use his chainsaw and down multiple survivors at any given time. If you're in a chase, people are going to be dropping those pallets left, right, and center just to avoid Bubba, and you just eat those pallets for breakfast, continue with the chase, and you can easily knock them down. You can also opt into your M1 to knock them just one hit and then catch them at a later time, or continue with that chase, and there's not much that they can do. If survivors are in the basement or they're going for an unhook and you see it, they are pretty much screwed. Obviously, with borrowed time coming on in, it's going to hinder Bubba a little bit more, but considering you can still get them into the BT state, they're going to have to mend, and it buys you a little extra time. If most pallets are cleared out, which happens most of the time when playing against Bubba, there isn't much that the survivors can do. Running something like Chili or Doom Engravings also helps so much because it makes his power so much easier to use, and it's just really, really nice. In fact, I don't think Chili has too much downsides to it either, so why not run it? There are some gimmick add-ons for Bubba which are quite fun and interesting, but realistically get no real value. But overall, I think Bubba is a very, very nice killer. I play him quite a lot, and I have a lot of fun with him, just chainsawing survivors, and you can easily get rid of really, really safe pallets as well by using all 3 of your charges, running around, and if you don't hit in anything, survivors are tempted to knock it down. If not, they're probably going to be running away from that loop because you're going to be right on top of them when your power ends, and then, of course, you can use your chainsaw again. Obviously, it needs to recharge a little bit, and if you do bump into something and you're into Tantrum, it isn't the best, and of course he falls short with the map pressure, broken record as I've been saying, but he makes up for it in the one-shotting capabilities. That, my friends, I think is going to do it. Well, you know what? I'm actually going to change my mind. I was going to say that's going to do it for the beats here, but we got to put the other Hillbilly brother right next to him, and that is the Hillbilly, or the other chainsaw brother, I should say. I like Hillbilly, and I always will have a soft spot for Hillbilly, but Hillbilly is definitely nowhere near as good as it used to be with the nerfs of the add-ons and perks way back in the past, like Tinker, etc. I don't know why they decided to add the cooldown as well to his chainsaw. I try to rationalize it a lot, but realistically, I couldn't wrap my head around it, and I think Hillbilly kind of falls short in that sense. Hillbilly has amazing map pressure. You can zoom around the map and even catch survivors that are running with your chainsaw, M1 them, get them down, or M2 them, sorry, with your chainsaw, get them down, and you're good to go. If you're in a loop, you're running something like Mother's Helpers, etc., you can easily shred through the pallet and hit the survivor as well. So pallets realistically aren't something that you need to worry about. You can easily also zone survivors into certain areas or get them to drop the pallets by revving your chainsaw, and if they bite a bait, they can drop it. You can then just break it or go for an M1 if you like, rev it up a little bit. They don't drop the pallet. They instead think you're going to try to chainsaw them, and you can get an easy M1. Again, zoom around the map anywhere that you need to go. If you need to go to a generator, you can easily get there, and you can do this quite easily. The only downside to Hillbilly is that overheating mechanic and some of the add-ons being a little bit more lackluster. You can't get those crazy flicks that you used to get. I mean, you still can. Don't get me wrong, there's still people out there that can do it, but it's not as easy towards the average user of the Hillbilly. But overall, he has everything that a great killer needs. He has an M1ing ability and crazy good map pressure. His power helps him in his chases, and overall Hillbilly is really good. What would put him in the A tier in my eyes would be his add-ons. There realistically isn't too much good add-ons for the Hillbilly except for the engravings, again, just like Bubba, and maybe Mother's Helpers, maybe Lapro Chains are good. Besides that, there's not too much in my opinion that helps the Hillbilly, and you can't, again, get too much flicks with the overheating mechanic, but overall, Hillbilly is still very high on that list. I would put him at A, but today we're going to put him in the B tier, which moves us up to the final tier, or the final 2 tiers, I should say, of everybody. So coming up next on the list is the Plague. The Plague, I feel, is like one of the most underrated killers in the game. I feel like the Plague is actually super good, and people realistically don't respect her as much as they should. Plague can get a lot of damage done. People choose not to heal against the Plague, and that plays right into her power as well. If you're running the correct add-ons, simply go around vomiting everyone, get them, you know, to be infected. Everyone's injured. Boom. Now, all you need to do is just knock him down. You also start off the trial with a corrupted thing, and a corrupted fountain, sorry, and you can just go around knocking people down very, very easily. There's not much that it can do considering there's a good range to it, and if you're running the right add-ons, you can even have another fountain if they really, truly refuse to heal. If they do end up healing, you can continue to spread that infection. It's very hard to avoid when a lot of other people aren't on the same page of what to do, but playing against a super well-coordinated team, they have 2 options. Everyone stays injured and deny you the power, which you still can get a lot of benefit out of. Just be a regular killer, knock them down since they're already injured, and you still have one of those fountains to utilize. Or if they tactically cleanse at all of these fountains, you'll have your power to go at will and literally just use your power over and over and over, because again, the power is super good. They won't be able to do much. You can easily knock them down through the pallet or through a vault, and it's easy peasy. There's not much else to say about Plague, but they're pretty underrated and they're pretty good. Speaking of underrated, the next killer that we're putting on this list is the Artist. The Artist, I feel, is one of the most underrated killers as well. A lot of people in the A tier are definitely underrated. Artist is really good. You have a lot of things going for you. First of all, you can spawn birds and just hit them straight off the gen, see where anybody's at. If you're running something like Severed Hands or anything along the lines, it's super convenient. Especially with something like Severed Hands, you can easily figure out where people are at, shoot another bird their way, and they will take injury. If you put them at vaults or specific pallets, they either have to walk into them, or they will get injured straight off the bat, which cuts off those loops significantly. While she doesn't have a lot of map pressure, she can easily just shoot birds across the map and injure anybody at will, especially if they're going for an unhook, shoot some birds, Severed Hands, or anything along the lines like that. They all got the birds, hit them one more time, they're automatically injured. So you keep that pressure going no matter what. There's so much more good things about her as well. There's not too much that the survivors can do besides try to avoid the birds, which then zones them into certain areas, and it works out quite well. Not much more to say, so let's carry on. I just realized I forgot to put the Demogorgon in a tier. He's not up in the A tier. Don't get it confused. I'm sorry. Let's scoot on back and let's talk about the Demogorgon really quickly because I completely forgot about him. I'm sorry, buddy. Demogorgon, I'm gonna put him. Where should we put him? Actually, I think Demogorgon would fall right below Ghostface, I'd say. No, you know what? Maybe not. Right in the B tier, we'll put him behind the Trickster. I completely forgot about the Demogorgon. I do apologize. The Demogorgon is pretty good. Everything that a good killer needs. He has the map pressure to teleport around the map very easily. He can just instantly go to a portal. Obviously, you need to be in the portal, which is a bit of a hindrance considering they are limited unless the survivors decide to break them and you can move them. He has the shred attack to easily chomp through pallets or cut those vaults quicker, pallet loops quicker, etc. Survivors can try to dodge it, but realistically, if you're a good Demogorgon, you won't miss most of your shots. And overall, Demogorgon has everything that a good killer would need. There is counterplay on both sides, and that's why I think he's one of the better balanced killers in the game, and that's where we're going to be putting him. I'm sorry that I forgot the demo. I really am, but let's carry on, shall we? All right, so the next killer on the list is the Oni. The Oni is definitely one of the better killers in the game, putting him in the high A tier. Oni, again, everything a good killer needs. If you smack a survivor, your power is is already charging up, it forces survivors to heal, because then your power will just get charged over and over, and you just collect your blood orbs, go into rage. You can flick around, jump around, knock survivors down, and you can knock multiple survivors down as well very easily. If anyone's going for an unhook, or if survivors are grouped up together, you can easily just knock them both down as well, because your power will do that. You can break through pallets. You can easily maneuver better than a hillbilly around vaults, around certain tiles, and get the survivor off guard, and even flick with the power as well. So if you do your job correctly, you will be rewarded. Hit a survivor, your power charges up. Some of the add-ons like Top Knot, etc. are just absolutely cracked, and it just makes your power so much better. And literally, pretty much all of the add-ons are good on Oni, and yeah, not much else to say about Oni. The reason he's not as high compared to the other killers are just because some of the other killers on the list are just absolutely dominating, i.e. the Hag. I think Hag is definitely underrated, and I think Hag is actually better than the Oni in a lot of situations. And reason being is that once you get somebody hooked, that is pretty much game over. If anybody decides to go for the unhook, they will trigger a trap if you placed one around, and you can easily continue and continue and continue to snowball. Hit the person that gets the unhook, and if they're in a dead zone, which a good Hag will put you in a dead zone, you just knock them down. If they refuse to do that and they decide to crouch, as you should, next to the Hag, you can easily walk back in time, because they're going to be crouching in to get in and then out to get out. Chances are someone's going to mess up, and if they don't, they play it right, you'll still end up on them. Surround the next loops with some other traps, and you can easily mind game survivors if they decide to run back into you thinking you won't, or you will teleport, or if they don't, you can just teleport, knock them down, put them on the hook, and rinse and repeat. There's literally nothing else that you need to do. The add-ons are fantastic as well for the Hag. They're all really good add-ons that you can use. Let's not even talk about Rusty Shackles, Mint Rag, etc. Hag is super good, and the reason why I'm putting her over Oni, she doesn't have the crazy map pressure of running around like Oni. She can't knock people down just like the Oni, but the amount of snowballing that you will constantly get, I think, is better than the Oni. I know, a little bit controversial, but again, my personal tier list, and I think she is really, really good. Let's carry on. That is going to bring us to, drumroll please, the Huntress. It's getting really hard to like accurately put all of these killers now, because they're all so good. It's hard to really figure out who's better than who. What needs to really be said about Huntress? Huntress is super good. You can use your beach ball hatchets, fling them across the map willy-nilly, knock people down so easily. In chases, she has the ultimate potential. Anyone drops a pallet, boom, hit him with a hatchet. They don't drop the pallet, hit him with a hatchet. They go to a vault, hit him with a hatchet. They fake the vault, hit him with a hatchet. Reload when needed. You don't need to actively reload all the time. Take your shots carefully. You can even zone survivors by just winding up a hatchet and holding it. If survivors are running across the map and you have a free shot, take it, because if you're accurate, you'll hit them, especially if they try mind gaming themselves. And the only downside to Huntress is that she doesn't have that crazy map pressure. Again, you can fling the hatchets around, but she is a 110 killer. If you're out of hatchets, you're trying to commit to a chase, etc., it's not going to do good. Certain tiles do screw with her, especially on Yamaoka, because you can't really throw your hatchets over certain things, and it can be mildly infuriating. But overall, it's hard to beat a good Huntress, and the chase potential is just too good. The snowballing and chase potential, I feel like, is superb on the Huntress, and the add-ons are just all very beautiful. Huntress is just really, really good. And yeah, let's carry on to the next killer on the list. And you guys might not have expected the Dredge to be this high, but I think the Dredge is one of the best killers in Dead by Daylight. I know, pretty crazy. Dredge is good. Dredge is absolutely amazing. The best map pressure in the game, hands down. You can easily teleport to lockers instantly. When nightfall is happening, your power is basically enhanced, and you can do even better. You can catch survivors off guard so easily if they're running to a certain pallet, if they're running towards a certain loop. Not to mention, he can leave a remnant behind at any loop whatsoever, forcing a survivor to either commit to the loop and then get knocked down as you teleport back, or run to another place, which then you can opt in to teleport to there and then knock them down. When you really start learning how to play the Dredge, you realize how good the power is. And so far, we have been dominating with his power, or their power, I should say, and it's just been absolutely fantastic. You have crazy good potential to use his power in chase. You have crazy good potential to use their power while teleporting to lockers. And yes, there is counterplay. You can lock a locker, but again, you can counter that by breaking the lock, or if you're running certain add-ons, break all of the locks. You can mind game survivors so easily. And I think with practice, people are going to really realize how good they actually are. Next on the list is a Pyramid Head. You know what? Actually, I'm actually going to put Pyramid Head below the Blight. I made a little bit of a mishap there. But Pyramid Head is next on the list, and Pyramid Head is pretty good as well. Pyramid Head has some crazy good potential to just literally ignore all physics whatsoever and hit you through walls. If you can figure out where the survivors are going mid-chase, you can easily use your Rights Adjustment power, get a pretty much free hit, even multiple survivors, and hit them. If they're on the hook, and they're unhooking, you get multiple hits as well. Your Trail of Torment gives you information. If anyone steps in it, you don't even have to waste your time taking them to a hook. You can just put them in a cage, and not to mention the Final Judgment does the same exact thing, all for the convenience of time, but time is of the essence when you're playing against 4 people trying to work on generators as quick as possible. So Pyramid Head having that chase potential as well. Most survivors like to avoid the Trail of Torment, which makes sense. They don't want to be, you know, ambushed to a cage, essentially, or pushed off to a cage, I should say. And what ends up happening is that they run some awkward loops and you can easily get them down. If they commit to running through your Trail of Torments, you can easily try to knock them down with the information that you're getting with the Killer Instinct, or just vividly looking at where they're going. Most people try to mind game your Rights of Judgment, and you can probably hit them down as well. And the add-ons just make it so much more delightful. The ranged add-ons are fantastic. Longer Trail of Torment is great. Faster recharge is nice. There's a lot of good add-ons that you can run for Pyramid Head, and in the right hands, they are pretty damn good. That takes us to our final 4. Ooh boy. And that will take us to the Twins. Twins are absolutely amazing. They can be a tiny bit annoying to play against sometimes, and that's understandable because there's not much a survivor can do. You're quite literally 2 killers on a map. Victor goes around, pounces on you, you then have to get Victor off your head. By the time this happens, Charlotte is already there to say, hey, what's up? You have amazing snowballing when you can literally just pounce on Victor, knock somebody down, pounce onto somebody else, and now 2 people are basically injured. You can opt in to go to that person that's on the floor, or you can commit to the chase and get that person down as well. That's typically how most of the games go with Twins, but if you've ever seen a good Twins main play, like someone like Lynxy, there's not much that you can do even if they don't choose the slug. You can easily get Victor to jump on somebody, use Charlotte, run around the map, and of course you have fantastic map pressure because you're at 2 places at once. There's so many other ways you can play too. There's some scummy ways you can play as well. You can leave Victor near a hook. You can leave Victor to guard a totem if you're running Devour Hope. We're not talking about perks, but I'm just saying. And then there's some add-ons that make this really, really nice as well, such as Toy Sword, etc. Even though they're brown add-ons, it helps my boy Victor out quite a lot. There's not much you can do against Victor because obviously you don't hear him coming, and by the time you realize he's there, it's a little bit too late. Yes, you can kick him after a successful hit, etc., but the recharge rate is pretty alright, and he can just pounce back and get you again. If he's on your head while you're trying to leave the exit gate, you can't, so he's quite good in that regard. I'm sure there's not much debate on how good Twins are. Twins in the right hands are absolutely dominant, and they are definitely in the high end of the A tier. That takes us to our final 3, and all of these guys are pretty much at the top. I'm just gonna bulk them together really quickly. The order I would put them in is Blight, Spirit, Huntress, or sorry, Nurse, not Huntress, oh god. And I think this is pretty self-explanatory. We'll start one by one talking about them. Blight will be the first person on our list. Blight is just absolutely fantastic. The map pressure that you can get is unreal. The add-ons that you can run for that are unreal. Alchemist Ring is absolutely cracked. You can fly around the map, you can flick around and hit people at pallets, at vaults, etc. If they decide to drop the pallet, you can break it with your power, continue to just dominate at loops because because of your speed, and that's pretty much it. The only legitimate way that you can duck a Blight is like hopefully running towards the end where they don't have the line of sight to hit you or the angle to hit you. Cut around corners, etc. But besides that, not much that you can do. The map pressure is phenomenal, just literally flying around the map and just hitting in walls, and obviously there's add-ons that help you see survivors as well, continuing that pressure. I don't think there's much debate about it. Spirit is next. Obviously, again, not too much debate. Spirit can literally mind game you at any pallet. You don't know where she's coming from, so it's very difficult to figure out what you need to do. If you need to drop a pallet prematurely, if you should continue. You don't really see her, so how do you know what to do? Obviously, there are some counterplays that you can do here and there, but with the add-ons, with her base, even just base, maybe not just base, but with the right add-ons, it is very difficult to beat a Spirit. A good Spirit, I should say. They literally just teleport on top of you, and there's not much that you can do. Yes, they're 110, but they make up for it with the just crazy good potential that you can do and how fast you can phase with the right add-ons as well. And finally, I realized I didn't even show the Spirit. Let me go ahead and show you the Spirit over here. There she is, but it's not your time. It's the Nurse's time. And I mean, realistically, we don't need to spend a lot of time on Nurse, right? Nurse is the best killer in the game. There's no debate about it. Counters all loops, counter all pallets, can literally teleport and just smack you down. There's not much that you can do. You can try to hit her with a pallet or try to cut around corners and try to mind game her, but you're probably only going to win against a Nurse when she's playing bad. A Nurse's biggest enemy is her own fault. If she mind games herself or tries to like overblink or underblink trying to figure out what the survivor's gonna do, that's pretty much it. But if there's a Nurse out there, Super Alf for example, that literally just knows what you're gonna do, you can't do nothing. There's no beating a good Nurse. And I mean, sure, you can in certain instances, or maybe you don't know how to play Nurse that well, so you don't think she's good. Nurse is good. You don't need add-ons to win. Nurse is just too dominant, and she's harder to play, obviously, but she's still the best killer in the game. And there you go, my friends. That is our tier list wrapped up. Took us a little while. I tried to speed through it a little bit more so we won't be sitting here all day long, but nonetheless, I think it was still a good chat and a good conversation. Let me know what you think about my tier list. That is every single killer ranked from worst to best. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, leave a like down below. Share your thoughts and opinions down below. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? I would love to hear. As always, I'm the King. I tip my crown to you guys, and we'll see you in the fog.